Devin Dampier took his talents to Salt Lake City. That's right. The University of Utah's new starting quarterback is here. So what can we expect out of him running this offense? And just what are realistic expectations for Jason Beck's offense? That's what we're going to be talking about on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with all of you in those YouTube comments, and you can follow us on social media on @Locked On Utes on X. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. You can visit FanDuel.com today to get started. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department, and I'm excited to be joined on today's show by the WildUte, who hosts the CFB Mafia on YouTube. And WildUte, we were both really fired up when we got the news that Devin Dampier is going to be coming to Salt Lake City. But now that we're just over that initial shock and excitement, we can talk about what he's actually going to bring to this Utah offense. Now, first, for those of you that might have missed last week, we were talking about an incredibly dynamic signal caller. As Ben Stevens posted, who's the host of the Sports Grid, there were 58 FBS players who threw for at least 2,500 passing yards, 36 FBS players who ran for 1,000 yards. Only one did both. That's Devin Dampier. You are getting an elite dual threat quarterback in Dampier. I think this is a guy who is going to be exceptional. I think the one thing, too, about Dampier that I love is his ability to keep plays alive. He is so hard to bring down and tackle. And for anyone saying, well, he did it against a bunch of group of 5 teams, watch him put Auburn and Arizona defenders on skates routinely. This guy is ready to make the jump to the next level. He has 2 years of starting experience too, so he's going to be used to a game atmosphere. This guy's a baller. I think Utah's offense is going to be fun next year, and that has me really excited.
It is so refreshing to have a magician as the quarterback of the Utes, and that's exactly what Dampier is. He can get out of the craziest circumstances. He can wiggle a way out. He can slide out. He's a playmaker. He makes crazy plays. He might make us crazy sometimes, but he's going to score points, JT, which we desperately need. This is not your normal Utah quarterback. We haven't seen anything like this really since Tyler Huntley. His game's more mocked based on that type of profile and everything. And this guy is just a straight up playmaker. And what's refreshing about Dampier too, is he brings a joy to the game and leadership too. And that's really what the Utes have been missing. The fun, football's supposed to be fun. When you're winning, it's fun, right? And scoring points is fun and everything. The Utes have not had that for 2 seasons. It's been like torture watching the quarterback play sometimes and everything, just the pressure on some of these kids, right? So Dampier comes in and he's going to score a lot of points. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of electricity. This is a different day for Utah football, and it's a much needed day.
Yeah, and you mentioned it too, you really haven't seen a guy like this since Tyler Huntley, because Cam Rising could run, but it was more so okay, there's a wide open lane to scramble, I'm just going to run. His was more smart, I'll take an opportunity here. You could not consistently go to QB draws and realistically expect large gains. Dampier can run for a 50-yard touchdown. He has that kind of speed, and he's able to do those types of things too. So what more should we expect from Jason Beck's offense? Well, I think the first thing right away is everything is going to be built around Dampier's ability to run the football. There's some of my favorite plays that New Mexico had last year were plays where Dampier would literally look like, okay, QB draws an obvious thing because his legs are such a big threat, where they would set up a play where it looked like he was going to run, he would get in the shotgun, then take 3 steps forward like he's going to run, and instead it's a quick throw. And the defense isn't expecting that because they're so terrified of his legs. So I think the option game is going to be something that's really fun. There are a couple of great plays with him on the outside where he fakes a pitch to the back and then keeps it inside and just leaves defenders in the dust. So expect a lot of him running the ball. And I also think, yes, he threw 12 interceptions last year. And look, he could very well turn it over a lot next year too. But he's going to, I thought you said a great WildUte when you said there's going to be times he'll probably make you pull your hair out, but then also times where he just makes jaw-dropping plays. That's what Utah's getting in Devin Dampier.
And we need to score points. We've had one of the worst scoring offenses for 2 consecutive years. I'm sick of it. You're sick of it. Everybody's sick of it. It doesn't matter. We just need to see results. And Dampier's proven, and he can get it done. We need a dual threat guy that's going to be more multidimensional, not just 12 personnel and everything and throwing it around. He can make plays. He can score. He's one of the best red zone quarterbacks. This is a game changer, guys. This is what we need to score points and compete for a Big 12 championship. And let's go there. Let's go there. The Big 12 title, like once we get a few more transfer portal players are coming in. They're coming in right now. I mean, this is a game-changing player that can get us there again to compete for a Big 12 championship. And let's be honest, that should be the expectation of Utah every year. You and I have been Ute fans for a long time. This is an elite program as far as at this level and everything. And we need to be competing for Big 12 championships every year. Dampier is a guy that can get us there again so we can be proud of Utah football and get the wins that we deserve.
Yeah, it's a interesting thing because when you say Devin Dampier is the type of player that can take you from 5 wins to 10 wins. And the truth is he can, but it's not as much about just, hey, Devin Dampier is going to be one of the 10 best quarterbacks in college football. And I'm not trying to say like just go all in on Isaac Wilson on the Utah's quarterback situation. But the truth is Utah is probably going to go next year from what was bad quarterback play this year to at least solid at the Power 4 level, if not even better than that, because Dampier's potential is through the roof. And that in and of itself, if you look at how many plays Utah had solid quarterback play, they would have won last year. Yes, there's losing some guys on defense in the transfer on both sides of the ball, but they're getting a ton of players back. It's still a well-coached team, and Devin Dampier's skill set too. So yes, he's more of a runner, but I also think this bears talk about too. He can make some high-level throws. He is not one of the best passers in college football, and 12 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, but he's got an arm. And because of his ability to buy time, that opens things up. Is he going to thread it in the tightest of windows? Not consistently, but he is going to be able to, this play is dead because an offensive lineman missed their assignment. No, it's not. He left the defensive tackle in the dust, is able to keep the play alive for 5 seconds, and then boom, found someone else open downfield. Backyard football is back in Salt Lake City because of Devin Dampier.
It's so back. You watch his highlight tapes and everything, and Dampier will run to the right or left and then just jump and chuck the ball, and he'll throw for touchdowns. Stuff that like really fundamentally you're questioning, what is he doing and everything? But the guy just makes plays. Guess who else made plays? Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow made crazy plays and everything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the mechanics are perfect, what the last name is for the quarterback. It just matters about results and touchdowns. We don't need Dampier to be the best player in the nation. We just need him to be an average quarterback, maybe even a below average quarterback, because the quarterback play for the last 2 years has been some of the worst in the nation. You look at the QBR for some of the quarterbacks, it's been dreadful. It's just not good enough. JT, like our defense is good enough. Our defense is largely returning outside of maybe Calhoun. We'll find out about that scenario and everything. But really, we don't need a lot from the quarterback. Just baseline average play. Anything above average will make this team very, very difficult to beat.
Yeah, and even, obviously Kyle Whittingham might be a little nervous about those 12 interceptions, so maybe he will make Beck try to run the ball more, but Dampier just led the 4th best offense in the country. We just talked about that statistic. He was the only in rare company when it comes to his total yardage himself. He is a dynamic player, and I think Jason Beck is going to be able to do great things with him. And speaking of a dynamic player and just this offense, let's talk about what Jason Beck's offense is going to look like now that it has their quarterback. We're going to be talking about what we can expect from Utah in 2025 offensively in one moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season continues to deliver great game after great game, and you can get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place, and when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more. On the same page where you place your bets, just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And speaking of the NFL, the award season's heating up too. Is Josh Allen going to hold on to the MVP award? Can Lamar Jackson get back into it? How about Saquon Barkley in the year he's having? So lots of great NFL games, and that's not all. NHL, Utah Hockey Club, Utah Jazz as well, and so many other great NBA games. And that's not without even mentioning, too, college basketball. And this weekend, that's right, the college football playoff gets underway. You can check it out today at FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And once again, bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win at FanDuel Sportsbook today. All right, Wild Ute back with me here talking about this new look Utah offense. So before we talk about what the future is going to hold, unfortunately, I have to relive a little bit of the past and talk about just how I know it's painful. So 23 points per game last year, overall under 300 points on the season, 31 total touchdowns for Utah. And I mean, yeah, it was tough. Watching this offense at times was really hard, right? 130 rushing yards per game. And even the passing yards were a little misleading, I'll also say, because they ended up throwing for 199 passing yards per game, but there were so many gotta-have-it throws and moments that weren't there. So when we can, once again, talk about what this offense will look like in 2025, I do expect it to continue to be based around the run game, but now, like we said, it can be based around the quarterback run game because you have a guy in Dampier who defenses have to respect. Their top priority is going to be stopping Dampier. And Dampier is such a far cry from Isaac Wilson in many ways, but especially his comfort with pressure in his face. He's willing to make the gutsy throws across his body. And yes, he'll make a mistake or two, but he's the type of player that can make up for that mistake. So expect Utah to continue to run the ball a lot. And the triple threat that is going to be, or just the double threat, I'll even just say, of Dampier and whatever running back is, you'll have Dampier ran for over 1,000 yards last year. So at all times, there will be two elite runners of the football in Utah's backfield. And that is going to be really tough for defenses in the Big 12 to stop.
It's so exciting having this new offense. It really is. And Dampier at the helm with Jason Beck. This is a spread offense, guys. It's different than Andy Ludwig's offense. It's not going to be 12 personnel. It's not going to be 2 tight ends. And that's why we've seen some of these tight end transfers, I think. With Carson Ryan leaving recently and stuff, I mean, the offense has changed. It's not going to be so tight end heavy. It's going to be more quarterback run friendly, a little bit more go route type on the ends too. So it's a different scheme. It's easier to learn and everything. And it's a modern college football set. Guys, Jason Beck is a dang good hire. Mm-hmm. Like, he knows recruiting grounds in Utah. I get it. He's a BYU guy, ex-BYU player. He was on the Bronco Mendenhall staff and everything. We just need to get over that. We just need a guy that comes in and gets results and knows how to recruit these territories. He knows what to do to score points. This is a perfect hire for Utah. It probably wasn't going to get better no matter if you had Arbuckle or McLaughlin and stuff. This guy knows how to get it done. He's more experienced. He knows the recruiting grounds. He knows exactly what to build to score points. And I'm really optimistic about this offense, but it's going to be much, much more explosive than last year too, just because the quarterback run game is there. And expect to see more portal wide receivers coming in. We need wide receivers now, and we need to fill it up with running backs too. So that's going to be the main priority now. And again, look for those New Mexico transfers.
Yeah, and it's funny, too, when you hear everyone who is, and look, I understand a little bit. He played at BYU. But at the end of the day, 2 things. Number one, what I care about, are you good at your job? And Jason Beck is fantastic at his job. And I know Arbuckle and Leftwich were the top 2 choices. Doesn't mean Beck can't end up being the best one. He led a better offense statistically just last season. Also, how many great Utah players and coaches, just like our head coach who's coming back for another year, have BYU ties? So, like, the fact that we're like all wrapped up in like, oh, he came from BYU. No. Is he good at the job? That's what matters. Jason Beck has proven he's good at the job. He's proven he's worthy of this elevation, and I can't wait to see what he gets to do with this offense. So they will be run heavy, and I like that you mentioned Dampier he's a fun player, not just because of the arm, but not just because of the legs, but the arm. I mean, he will let it fly out there, and defenses are gonna have to put extra defenders in the box to try and contain Dampier. So that will open up one-on-one shots downfield. So that's where I'm excited to see the talent that Utah brings at wide receiver. You're going to get a lot of one-on-one opportunities. So there should be more shots and opportunities available. And look, the Utah offense last year was, as we said, dreadful at times. This is an offense that, I mean, they lost 7 of their final 8 games because of the offense's inability. Only once during that losing streak did they cross 25 points, and that was against Iowa State at home. I expect Utah, they averaged 23 points per game. I think Utah's going to average 30 points per game next year. I do. I just think Devin Dampier's legs, will they also turn it over a little bit more? Maybe put the defense in a few of a bind? Potentially. I mean, Wilson threw a ton of interceptions too, right?
Yeah, so JT, we had a lot of interceptions this year. I mean, like, seriously, how much worse could it get?
I know.
Like how much worse could it get? Like, it's not going to get worse and everything. We need to evolve.
I think Dampier, it'll be interesting to see, like, how do Dampier's improvements in his play versus consistently facing better secondaries, what does that lead to interception wise? I'm very curious. I think it's likely he throws double-digit interceptions. Maybe he doesn't, and that would be fantastic. But either way, he has the athletic ability to get those points back too. So I'm excited to see the shots that he can take one-on-one downfield. And once again, when you have a quarterback like Devin Dampier, the defense can have everything mapped out. Okay, we got this coverage planned out. We're going to contain him. Oh, he got out of it. Devin Dampier ran for a first down. A quarterback who can scramble, run, and just make plays like that can cripple a defense.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. I expect a lot of points. I think you nailed it with that 30 points per game. I mean, he's been posting it. Like, New Mexico's not a JUCO college, guys. That's a Mountain West school. Like, check this out. Dampier beat a ranked team this year in, I believe, Washington State.
Yes, he did.
New Mexico hadn't won a ranked game in like 20 or 30 years. Like, this guy's no slouch at all. Like, seriously, people that think that getting a Mountain West transfer is like a JUCO player is crazy. Like, Indiana built a whole roster this year that got to the college football playoff based on the same type of philosophy, guys. Kirk Cignetti at Indiana, he brought in a bunch of his former players from Georgia Southern. So, like, this is proven. This is working right now in college football, and this is going to work, especially if you get more of this New Mexico crew and everything. And you just have to be more dynamic in the Big 12. You have to have that quarterback run game if you're going to score points. We know it gives trouble. I mean, look down south in Provo and stuff. The way to beat the Cougars is a run game, quarterback run game. That really is a lot of Big 12 defenses. That's how you have to attack them. You have to evolve. We're not in the Pac-12 anymore. We can't play the same type of offensive game. We're evolving. We're going to score points next year. It's a different time in Utah. And it's really exciting, actually. It's exciting. Incredible. We're back. It feels like we're back. We're back, baby.
I'm thinking we're back. It just feels different when you have a type of dynamic player like Devin Dampier, who we are excited about because what he's done at the college level. It's so much different than Isaac Wilson, who has to, even Brandon Rose too, right? And Brandon Rose had nice moments against BYU, but like he had to learn in his first college snaps on the fly. Devin Dampier started every game last year and had even experience going back the year before. So this guy's gotten the reps. He's ready to take that next step. He's done it, made plays against SEC defenses. He made plays against Arizona last year. They had over 30 points. This is an Arizona State offense. They scored over, this is a New Mexico offense. I know they finished the season 5-7. They had over 30 points in 8 games on the year. It was much more frequent that the defense let them down than the offense. And Dampier, even a guy, like he ended the season, yes, a couple of the turnovers we talked about, but in his final 3 games, he did not throw an interception. And in his final 2 games, he had 6 rushing touchdowns. So you're talking about a dual threat guy. And for anyone who's pushing back on like, how can you be this high on this guy that all of a sudden you'll be a Big 12 contender next year? Well, number one, every game that Utah played last year was a game in the fourth quarter. Even the Colorado one, when Wilson threw that interception on the sideline, Utah was right there and in it. And when we look at his experience in play, I feel good about it. I'd be curious to ask any BYU fans this who say, how can you feel good about this guy? At this time last year, did you feel good about Jake Retzloff being your quarterback? No. This is a BYU team that was projected to win 4.5 games and just competed in the Big 12 title. And if you look at what Dampier did last year, it's easy to project Utah being towards the top of the conference next year if things go to their plan.
And you mentioned something, Brandon Rose. So Brandon Rose is the quarterback that we should really consider going after and bringing back to the program.
Bring back, okay.
Talk about a Jason Beck guy. Like Brandon Rose is more dual threat. He's got an arm. Like he fits that prototype so dang well. He was the only quarterback in the room last year that fits it. So I think now that you have Dampier in the quarterback room, bring Brandon Rose back. Bring him. He's got to be a huge priority because we know quarterback injuries happen. We know that really well. So Brandon Rose, I think, is a huge focal area. If you can bring him back to Utah, would be a huge win to fill up that quarterback room with the new recruits coming in and everything. So it's really exciting. Again, we haven't even touched on the offensive line. With all these returning offensive linemen. Like seriously, this like Dampier, like with this line coming back, if we get more weaponry on the outside, which we'll get in the portal and everything, this is going to be the best line he's ever played in back of in his whole life. With his running ability, we can do some really fun stuff this next year. And it's just it's a cause for optimism because really for about 3 months, it's been really tough in Ute land. It's been tough based on the season and everything, who transferred out. But this is a huge new change of guard right here. And I think that the Utes really, the hope's coming back, the fan base.
It absolutely is. And hey, I can tell you host a podcast, WildUte, because you brought up the offensive line, and that is where we are going to be going in our final segment here. So I want to talk about how exciting it is that Utah got a news that they're getting back one of their offensive linemen, that he won't be transferring. We're going to tell you how exciting that is for the Utah offensive line, the O Block, in one moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our great friends at Game Time. Game Time has you covered because with Game Picks, they filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Picks is a fantastic feature, and it's not just for sports, it's for concert, comedy, and theater events near you. They also have that all-in pricing, which is a tog line that features and shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You can get a panoramic view from your seat too, which is my favorite feature, so I know what kind of a deal and view I'll be getting before I make my purchase. Also, that low price guarantee where Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage is also reliable with your purchases covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today, as Game Picks has you covered. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. Capital L for locked, O for on, and all of the word college is capitalized with no spaces for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today to see what events are available, and you can get Jazz tickets, NHL, so much with Game Time. What time is it? Game time today. Round this one out with the WildUte. Look, you were already talking about the offensive line, so I'll let you take it here. What excites you most about the O block returning in 25?
Spencer Fano, Caleb Lomu, all the experience coming back. We got the interior guys coming back too. Kump is going to be coming back. I know Kump's a little bit more of a divisive figure and everything if he's really got the quality. I like Jared Kump. I just think with the returning production that we're going to get and everything, especially with the bookend tackles. I mean, we've got one of the best lines in the nation coming back next year. That's undeniable. And Spencer Fano is an absolute studdo. I mean, JT, you were a former offensive lineman. You know the technicalities, right, of how good this kid is. I mean, this line right here, Dampier's got to just be licking his chops like, oh, my goodness gracious, you got to be kidding me. And, like, the nice thing about the tackles, too, is they can slim down more to play a spread style offense. So usually with, like, a 12 personnel, like pro set stuff, you have to beef up the offensive linemen a little bit so they're a little bit slower. But these tackles are so lean and everything by nature. They can slim down. They can play this game, convert to the spread offense that Jason Beck wants to run. It's going to work out.
It's incredibly exciting. I do think Utah is one of, if not the best tackle duo returning, not just in the Big 12, maybe even college football. Like, I just would have to see what every other school is bringing back, but it's easily the best in the Big 12. I can't go best offensive line overall just because I am scared about some of the interior offensive line pieces still. Look, the news we got last week was to know Tongai is going to be coming back. I'm happy to have Tongai back, and I thought he had good up and down moments. But the problem is, so did Jaron Kump right next to him. I think one of those two guys, maybe they can both make a massive leap and start next to each other. Honestly, I didn't love what I saw from Kump throughout the season. He's been a guy, it's just been really up and down. And I think that's a position where Utah at both left guard, honestly, every interior offensive line spot, there should be an open competition. Michael Mokafisi, I'm trying to remember if his injury was ever, they said what it was, and there's not been a timeline given, nor has it been, at least that I've seen, reported if he's going to enter the transfer portal or not. That's the guy who started 3 years now, so I really want Mokafisi back. I feel really good about 3 of the 5 offensive line spots if you get Mokafisi back to full health. And I will say this, it was Kump's first year at center too. So I do think both him and Tongai, if they earn and win the jobs back, can continue to improve. But I am going to be a little skeptical just because of the play.
What do you think it is about Kump's game? Like, I think technicalities.
I think Kump on the interior sometimes he doesn't hold his blocks long enough sometimes, especially in the run game. I thought he got better this year at picking up twists. That was a big issue for him in 23. I thought he was better in pass protection. I thought the Utah offensive line pass protection was pretty good. Most of the sacks they gave up, I thought were Wilson related, holding onto the ball. But what was frustrating was in the run game, Utah wasn't able to always get that push. And I think that was Tongai, Kump, and at times Mokafisi losing their one-on-ones up front far too frequently. So I want to see those guys hold and maintain their blocks a little bit longer, avoid there be miscues where a guy comes through unblocked because they're not on the same page, do a better job of working those zone double teams because Utah's a zone heavy team up to the second level. And then I think this Utah offensive line will be in business. And yes, we don't know who that running back one is going to be yet, but I'm excited to have Mike Mitchell back. Thought he showed some nice flashes as just a true sophomore. And I like what you mentioned too about the New Mexico back in Eli. I think that's a guy who could be productive too. And either way, when you could have the same 5 back up front, it's not always a great thing. I think Oklahoma State returned that. We saw that all went with Ollie Gordon, but The Utah's offensive line played more than well enough in most of the games for this team to win, and Utah was a one-dimensional team. They will not be a one-dimensional team next year, and if this is the same five on the offensive line, I expect them to have even more success. But WildUte, as we close this one out, I think one thing's just clear. The Utah offense is much improved, and it's going to be exciting. I already can't wait till August, September, whatever the first game day in Rice-Eccles Stadium is going to be.
Hope. Lighten the heart, Ute fans and everything. We can talk smack again. We are more back than we were. Watch the smack top, not too much. We can't say it all yet. But let's get a couple wins under the docket again. But really, it feels like Utah football's back. We've got the momentum back and stuff. We've got the quarterback that's hopefully going to be with this program for 2 years, the right guy. Cam Rising's still around, too. I mean, Cam Rising, maybe he stays, maybe he goes. We'll find out about Rising. But really, Dampier's going to be the guy going forward that we're building the program around. A lot of hope in Ute country and stuff, so go Utes, baby.
Go Utes indeed. Make sure you guys head over, give WildUte a follow. At X, you can follow him at the WildUte, and he's the host of CFB Mafia on YouTube. So check him out there. WildUte, thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
That's going to do it for our show today, but we'll be back. The transfer portal continues to be wild, so we will continue to cover it the best we can on Locked On Utes.